that's a triple play. New episodes, I couldn't wait. Yeah, open your mind at the first gate. Press play, no need to debate. AoA, check me out. Look, plugged in, you can catch the hype. Golden Dawn, how we follow the light. Anime like life, married to it, my wife.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages? Welcome back to the AoA show. I'm your host, as always, Ian, along with the boy Isaiah.
Oh, hi, yo.
And today we're hitting you with another Haikyu tier list, this time going over the characters in Season 2. Just to lay the ground rules before we start, because in our first tier list for Season 1, there was a little bit of confusion. To limit that confusion, we just have it labeled S through D, because that's what it's going to be. We're not going to put any quirky or cute names or think we're cool, because it leads to a lot of confusion. So that is what it is. Where they are is where they are. Yep. Number 2, the rules or criteria for this, it's not the best player. It's not anything like that. It's literally going to be their overall likability and their impact on us. And when I say likability, I don't mean for you guys. This is not to be rude, but this is our tier list. So likability for us, how much did we like the character and how much of an impact did the character have on us? Maybe they had one on other characters, which then, you know, filtered into having an impact on us, etc. Kind of that chain reaction. But that's going to be more or less the criteria that we are going off of today. So being that we were doing Season 2, we tried to highlight all of the relevant characters within Season 2. There were quite a bit of them. We probably included some in here that were, you know, questionable in terms of their relevance, but we thought, as you know, if they had a monologue or if they had an episode that was like somewhat dedicated to them, or they had like a really big shining moment, why not incorporate them? You'll notice that we did not incorporate any of the Shirazawa team from season, because they're Season 3, pretty much exclusive, them and Karasuno. So we held off on adding anyone from that team, just to give them their due in the next tier list. If you want to check out our first tier list, definitely subscribe to the channel, and you can check it out on this very channel. Like I said, we have the Season 1 tier list. We also have the Season 1 review, and we also have our Season 2 review out as well. So if you want to check that out, you'd be more than welcome. And definitely subscribe to AoA Reacts. That is our reaction channel. The link is in the description down below. So you can watch all of our live reactions to Haikyu as far as we are at the moment, at least everything Season 1 and 2, and then Season 3 and 4 going forward, because the show is just that damn good. So anyway, getting into this list in no particular order, by the way, and I apologize if I butcher or straight up forget some names, like this first one, because I just refer.
I got you.
Okay.
His name is Akiteru, or Akiteru.
Akiteru, Suki's brother. So we were a little on the fence about incorporating him, because he's one of those characters, again, that doesn't have supreme relevance, but being that Suki has this pretty relevant arc within Season 2, his brother plays a pretty major role in that, along with people like Yama and some of the folks from the other teams. So we wanted to incorporate him, and he was pretty much a homie, you know, just going forward the whole time. Yeah, I'm obviously not going to put him S, because he's not, like, you know, he's not S in that, right? I think for this guy, I'm probably going to go somewhere around C or B, because he's not downright just like unlikable or just you know, but he's definitely not like up there.
Yeah, I'm feeling C.
Okay, C it is. Let's do it. Also, I want to put this out as well. Just because a character is lower like CD doesn't necessarily mean that we dislike them. Right? Because that's a common misconception that we got in their first tier list, that it's like, oh, if they're not B through A or B through S, you probably don't like them, or that means they're in like that thing. Every character in Haikyu is kind of awesome in their own right. It's really a subjective thing here. And even if you don't jive with a lot of their personalities, they are likable to certain people and all that kind of stuff. So it doesn't mean that we don't like them. It just means that if we have to pick on a list of S through D, that there have to be some people
by
in C
the nature of this list. If somebody's in S and someone's in D, we probably like the person in S more than the person in D, but that's how this list goes.
Yeah, that's just it. Doesn't mean we dislike them. It's just we like them less than the person in S.
Exactly. Yeah.
So anyway, moving on, we have Asahi.
Boy. So for the first tier list, I hate when we do these things with Haikyu. For the first tier list, I made it a rule, because we had so fewer characters, that I was like, okay, to make things a little interesting, I was like, we have to put every person from the Haikyu team on in a different tier. Like, they can't all just go in S, because, you know, feelings at the forefront, that's where I put them all.
Yeah.
But with this one, because we have so many more characters and like, you know, none of these characters, except for like we were saying before, like, you know, a couple or one or two, everybody here on the list like kind of has enough of a personality and a presence to grade accurately. We're kind of just like, we're going to, you know, the Karasuno boys are just getting thrown in with everybody else. There is no like, you know, weird stipulation this time. So all that to be said, I kind of want to put him in S. I mean, I'm okay with going down to A. But I can't see B. I can't see B or anything lower. I mean, Asahi is just, I love his moment. Is this, hold on. I might be totally misremembering. Is this no. When they play Date Tech and he has a whole moment with the Iron Wall, that's season 1, right?
That's season 1.
Season 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll have to bear with us as well because we've been watching this show. Like at the time of recording, full disclaimer here, we actually just finished season 3.
Yeah.
So before we continued, we were like, we got to get these videos recorded so we're not polluting our memory here and just getting these backwards things. So just remembering season 2 for starters and not confusing it with future events or past ones because this is strictly season 2.
Might be looking up stuff or have to double check our.
Yeah. I'm gonna go. I personally think A or B for Asahi. Again, I have to try and pull myself back and be fair and like I don't want to just load everyone in an S considering we have 33 characters in total and we got a long way to go here. So maybe that's kind of skewing my vision here. But it's not strictly because it's like, oh, I can't pollute S with too many people, so he can't go there. Genuinely, I do think that everyone on the team has their moments, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone on the Karasuno team, everyone on this list has their moments in some way, shape, or form. And there probably are some moments that are evading me within the course of season 2. Again, it's been a little bit since we watched it. But I don't remember anything so standout that had such a profound impact on me personally that I was like, this is, like I am like straight up Asahi stan. I know in season 1, he had quite a bit of those moments. A few of those moments. Episode 9, which I will never forget when he finally, was like, I have my team behind me, he joins the team. And then when he versus the Iron Wall and he's able to overcome it or smash through it or get around it, that was a huge moment. He has a lot of like team oriented things going on here, but I don't remember anything super specifically within the confines of season 2 that really stood out to me. And if there is something, I forgot it, which means that, you know what I mean? Clearly didn't have as big of an impact on me. Down in the comments, you could let us know all the things you love about the character, but that's where I am. I think A or B. If you're saying S or A, I can meet in the middle on A on this one. So A it is. Obviously, Asahi's a homie though. Love him. All right.
Next is Bokuto.
Yes. Hey. Owl Man. Hey. Let's go. This is a fan favorite for sure.
Yeah. People love him. I love him too. He's cool.
He is really cool.
I like he's a, classic emo boy. He's all up in his feelings and ish. I think I would say B. Just a gut feeling.
Yeah, so there were a lot of new characters introduced in season 2, which was something that was really cool. We commented on that multiple times since the start of it, right? You'll see a lot of new faces here as compared to season 1, and they all have relevance, right? So I do think, though, out of some of the new characters that we got to meet, and apparently Bokuto has much more to show, right, in season 4 from what we know. But I do feel like Bokuto's presence was very relevant, even out of all the new faces that we saw. So if you take all the new faces that we see, there are a couple standout characters, and I do think that he would qualify as one of them. Also the new manager, like people like that, right, would qualify. So I do put him a leg above, some of those folks for just his overall relevance and like the impact that he had on me. I know he stuck out to me right away. When he came to the show, I was like, who the hell is this guy? This Owlman guy, our nicknames right away. But I really did jive with his personality. And I do remember, if I'm thinking back now, if you rewatch our season 2 reactions, you could probably catch me multiple times, unless it was edited out, being like, you know what? I like this guy. You know what? I like this guy. You know what? I like this guy. I'm always like subconsciously saying it. And there is something about his personality that just like, is just funny, and there's this charisma to it, but he's got, this thing where he's all up in his feelings at the same time. And it was just a character that I personally gravitated to for a team that we really didn't get too much of a highlight with, that we're probably going to get more of a highlight later. So I personally, my gut goes with A for this character, where I could see some of the other new characters coming in a little bit lower. I do think he ranks a little bit higher. I don't think he's S because I think S is a little much. I think season 4 we'll have to see. Where
I'm thinking about also that conversation he had with Suki. Like he's one of the people that like pushes Suki to start going into his change. Yeah. When he's like, oh, once you have that feeling in a match, like you'll know. Which comes into play later.
Yeah, for sure.
It's cool. It's cool.
Yep.
All right. Next we have. I'm gonna look up his name.
Chikara.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very much a standout character in the sense that before his standout like episode or two, I didn't even know he existed. He literally came out of nowhere and became like a main character.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Which is cool. I mean, it's when the episode where Daichi goes down and he's got to sit out in the hospital or sit out in the nurse's office or whatever, and we need like a new team captain. We need somebody to step up and fill that role. And again, this character who, at least on screen hasn't really said anything more than a word, does that. He fills that role. And it's like, at first, because we're just meeting him, you're like, okay, but like this guy seems cool, but is he going to be able to fill like the leader role? That's a very like, you need to be a certain kind of person. And then there's flashback. They do this thing where, they flash back to all moments that like he's had with the team, which reiterates that like, just because those are moments we haven't seen as an audience doesn't mean they didn't happen, right? Yeah. Like there are interactions that are happening between the team, off camera, so to speak. And a lot of the team, they do trust him. They place their trust in him to fill this role and to do this job.
Yeah.
And he has, just I would equate it just from being, new to that role and that position, anxieties and nerves about it. But when push comes to shove, when his back's up against the wall, he does, step up and he does fill that role and he does, rope his team together in a way that really only somebody like Daichi has done before. I really like him.
Yeah, I really like him too. I mirror really all the things that you said, kind of came out of left field for sure. And I liked the alternative perspective he gave as someone that, had quit the team for reasons that like he wasn't maybe as passionate or not passionate enough to stick with it. And it gave us, I know we had a speech on that, a little monologue on that when we reacted to it. So that was a cool one to see if you wanted a little more introspection into our thoughts on this character. Ultimately, I think that I would probably, my gut tells me B for this character. Reason being is obviously I don't think, S, like S is reserved for the upper, right? So I'm going to eliminate that one. And it's really between A and B, but I do think I settle on B because of the fact that he does have a pretty amazing moment within the episodes that he's there. It's not fully centralized on him, and we do get that really cool perspective, but I do think, unfortunately he suffers from side character syndrome in the sense that he will have that moment, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
And again, I know this is season 2, so maybe this is an unfair assumption here, but I can't assume that there's going to be much more than that. And while that doesn't necessarily, I don't want to cheapen the moment that he does have, I don't know if that alone is enough to make it where it's like, I'm not thinking about him on a standard basis, right?
Yeah,
right. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm still not coming to him after those episodes ended, being like, yo, what's he up to? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Type thing. And that's where I am with him personally.
Okay, I can see B.
All right.
I feel it.
Let's do it.
All right. Coach Ukai. We actually have both
Jr.,
the Ukais back to back.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, Ukai Jr. He's like, I kind of feel like it's weird because he, by the nature of his job, like he kind of does the same thing in all these seasons, right? Like his presence is very like consistent, both in like what he literally does, but also in like the magnitude and impact he has in each season. Like he doesn't, it's not like any of the players per se, where like in season 1 they might be like if I were to take a character like Yama, Yama's somebody who, like, in my opinion, his impact and presence grows each season. Yeah. Where like Ukai is just here. And that's not to say like here is in like bottom tier or that he's bad, but his presence and impact, like what he does for the season and how I felt about him has always been where, like, from season 1, it's season 3 to season 1. Like it's always been here. But that's like, I would put that in a high marker just because I really like him and I like his mindset and his stance on being a coach and how he coaches. So it's kind of hard for me to think like, oh, okay, well, like season 2, he really did X, Y, and Z versus season because he's he does the same thing. Now, sure, you could argue that like the specific lessons or techniques or things he teaches X person or the team are like different or they're more impactful in one season versus the other, and I can see that. I could see A. My gut I feel A, but I could go to B if persuaded.
I think I'll go A on this one. Okay. I won't lie. I'm a little biased. I like this character. Yeah, just the idea of this character makes me laugh, where it's like he's outside smoking a cigarette, like holding down the store. And then the next second he's coaching these like ragtag kids and, he's kind of taken to it in a great way and has developed a great bond with, this whole team. I do agree with you that it's kind of hard for him to fluctuate per se, which is a strength and a weakness when it comes to tier list rankings. And I do think that it's pretty similar, although I do think that there is some growth from him this season in particular, being that we've had to overcome some pretty big challenges, right, through the litany of games that we've done. And I can't remember all the moments in the moment here, but I do know that there are a lot of times where he has a revelation within his coaching. I know in the training arc in the beginning when he brings him to see his grandfather and things of that nature, like he's going above and beyond for that, like even more so now. He's completely invested. So I don't know. And my bias, so I think A for him. But
I agree.
Anyway, Senior is up next.
Papa Ukai.
Yeah, Grandpa Ukai. Yeah, I love both the Ukais. I'm not gonna lie, I really like them a lot, and I really love Old Man Ukai, who has a lot of really standout moments. Actually, surprisingly, I didn't think they were going to incorporate him as much as they did in the show, because I know in season 1 he's always alluded to, right? It's like, whoa, he retired. I thought he was dead. I thought he was literally died. I thought they were speaking him. And then he pops up in season 2, and I'm like, okay, is this going to be like the small cameo we have? But it's really not. Like, there's a lot that he teaches Hinata. There's a lot that he teaches, just the team, and he's there for a lot of the games and all that kind of stuff. So he really acts as like this spirit of volleyball, this proxy. So I like him a lot. I think if I'm being completely fair, I think I could see an argument for B. My bias says A, but. I could see going either or. Okay,
I'm gonna say B, only because while I agree with everything you said, and I do also love him, I think the one of the most fair way to grade him is to stack him up against somebody like his son, grandson. In terms of like their impact for me with the story, because they functionally serve the same role. Just that Old Man Ukai effectively does less of it by the nature of the fact that he's retired, right? He's not the active coach here. He gives his grandson a couple points and tips on like learning how to coach better. And like you said, he does coach Hinata and teaches him a little bit about like learning different tempos and techniques and stuff. But I think if I were to, my gut reaction going in is I'm like, okay, he's Ukai, but just less of it. In comparison to his grandson, who's just like there and kind of grows with the team more consistently. So that's why I'd say
you're half the man, your grandson. No, I'm just playing. Yeah, I could see B. B is good for me. Man, we hit like runner for characters that I really like in this show. So here I am gushing, but next one is Daichi.
That's the man.
And I just like that picture. So, so Daichi is obviously, for anyone who's been following us for a while, and Isaiah knows, Daichi is up there as one of my favorites for sure. I believe last tier list we put him in A. I think I decided on because we had to put one in each, so it might have been A that he ended up in. I will say, though, this time around, and, bias included, but also bias aside, I do think there is an argument for S with Daichi this season in particular, because I do feel that there are a lot of key moments that really highlight the importance of a strong captain on your team. Because we go through this litany of games, but not only the games in the training arcs as well, right? This is a player that at times can be very slept on because he's not scoring all the points. He's not doing all that kind of stuff. But the improvement that he had shown was something to behold, and getting more of his backstory was really awesome as well, to see kind of the things that he's gone through to get this team to what it is, right? To try and restore it to its former glory and to really just stick with it until the very end. And you could say the same for people like Asai and Suga, etc. But being that he is the captain, I do feel like there is that much more of a responsibility that rests on his shoulders to boost the morale of the team, to boost the other players and to understand them. Not that the others don't, but really on a deeper level, on a leadership level, which is a little bit different when it's like, okay, I know you, I can give you a good talk, I can motivate you, but at the end of the day, like, I also have to be the one to be like, this is the order and we're going through with it, but but in a way that's respectful. And I feel like he does that very well within this season, especially, during the training arc and then during the games. Like I said in the beginning, there are a lot of moments in this season when the importance of a captain is highlighted and the importance of captains going head to head in their games are highlighted. I also think it's worth some brownie points that he literally lost a tooth for for his team for diving for that ball at the one point, which was like a really crazy episode. And I know that that episode before that happens, like he was really just having like a great series of episodes there where they were really highlighting all the importance of him. But that's my argument for S on Daichi.
I agree with S. I think this is Daichi's season. I'm not gonna beat the dead horse here, but a lot of what you said just rings true. I think Daichi has a lot of moments in the season that are very highlights the importance that Daichi has as a player, but also as a captain. I mean, Daichi's not a good captain because he's like X amount good at volleyball. He's good as the captain for Karasuno because he understands his team. He knows how to use them. He knows how to wrangle these people in. He knows that if X player on the opponent's team is getting under Hinata's skin, he knows what to say to Hinata to sort of wrangle him back, calm him down. Then he knows how to amp people up, like maybe Asai if he's getting, he knows how to. It's funny because it's like him and Suga are like the parents of the team.
Yes.
Like Suga is sort of the emotional intelligence connecting point with the team. Like he knows what everybody's feeling. He knows how to move people in their mind and get them to be where they need to be. But Daichi is sort of the one who understands what everybody's thinking and knows how to counter that. Knows how to okay, X person is doing this thing, but I need them to be here. I think it's between the match he plays where he gets knocked out, and I think it's versing. I always forget how to say his team's name, Johenji, the frat team that we call them. Where he you really get to see the kind of counter that he can be.
Thank you.
That was the one I was forgetting. A team where they're sort of playing fast and loose, and they don't really have a lot of rules or structure to their technique and stuff. That are like, I feel like doing this. Let's do it. Is a direct counter to someone like Daichi, who is very steadfast, disciplined, and focused, and can keep his team together so that when things are sort of going crazy like that, Daichi's like, okay, cool, that's great, but let's stay. We're in the game. Yeah. Let's stay here. And you even see, Yuji's their captain's name, how upset by that he gets. He gets so upset that Daichi is just this calm, collected wall of understanding. Yeah, he can't fathom it.
I love too how flexible he is as a leader too, which is you just reminded me because of that game and how a lot of players look at him as very one-dimensional because they underestimate him, and then he's able to basically turn the chessboard and turn it into a different game. And because that's a great example with the frat team, that he is the steadfast wall, but there are also matches where he encourages the reverse for now Karasuno to be the one that's trying new wacky zany stuff, but to keep their cool while doing it instead of being too regimented. And I think that really speaks to his character. It's just something you reminded me of.
100%. Yeah. I'm in agreement with that stuff.
All right.
It's the boy.
Means.
It's the boy. All right. Protagonist Kun.
Yeah.
Hinata Shoyo. It's hard to do these two, him and Kageyama, because they by nature they stand out in every season. I'm not gonna say every episode because there are episodes that highlight X character more than them, but they I feel and I'll say Hinata more so than Kageyama. Almost weirdly, a lot of the characters, more so anybody on Karasuno, weirdly always kind of has some kind of hand in their character development. He weirdly influences any and all of these characters in some way, shape, or form. It's not always the same degree, but I feel a lot of, because there's this thing we talked about where you take a team like Seijo or the team that they play in season 3, whose name is stupid long. But like when they play another team, they play them to defeat them and make them like realize that they're a better team than them. But Karasuno, when they play a team, they almost are doing the opposite. Like they're playing to win, but they're also playing to encourage the opposite team to play at their best and to get better. It's kind of the difference between like playing against a team to push them down versus playing against a team to bring them up.
Yeah.
And I think Hinata is literally the focal point of that. Like he's the one player that all these teams sort of like react and connect to when that thought comes into their head. They're like, I want to get better. We need to play better. But it's like, because I see how hard this kid's trying, because I see how good this kid and how much he wants it. I want it more.
Sure.
And I think that it's kind of crazy that, I mean, you know, that's his role as a protagonist. But like, it's kind of crazy how consistently he does do that. He does it with virtually every single team they play. And I don't know. I think A, if I had a gut feeling, that's where I would go.
Yeah, I'm in this weird thing where I'm like, okay, if I'm not saying S, am I not saying S just because I am like, it's this weird reverse psychology thing where it's like, because he's the main character,
like,
I want to be different and not
he's
say
the main
S,
character.
but really he does deserve S.
Yeah.
Like that's where I'm kind of between right now, because it's certainly not lower than A by any stretch of the term. But I am genuinely debating on whether he is an S or an A here, and I'm, you know, like stacked up against some of these other characters.
No, that's fair. I think I did do that too a little bit.
Yeah,
I was
it's
like, I don't want to say S immediately because
Yeah,
he's
'cause
like
then it's
the
like,
main.
it's
I'm
gonna
like,
be, oh, there
is
they
that
go,
like
pick an S,
too
yeah.
predictable? But
Yeah,
it's like,
but it's like, but he kind of
deserve
is,
S though,
right? Like, it's tough, and he might just wind up being S on every tier list, but that just might be something we have to deal with, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like we got to Hinata, right? And to be fair, you know, I do think these conversations are warranted because I do think there are other characters that vie for that spot or maybe do a little bit more than Hinata, at least in our opinion. I know the last tier list we did, I believe they both ended up in S anyway, Hinata and Kageyama. But I do remember going on record here saying that I really believe that season 1 was like Kageyama's season a lot. Like Kageyama had a huge like standouts, like just as much, if not more than Hinata. It was very, very similar. So I guess that's my point, is that there are arguments to be made. So I think the conversation's warranted. But I do think that, at least for me, I mean, I do just love Hinata as a character, and half of this is just their raw likability and then their impact on us throughout the season. So for the first criteria, I do like him. I love Hinata. You know what I mean? He's great. You know?
I don't care.
Yeah. And I guess he just has this weird influence, right? Where I was saying in the beginning, where it's like, what's the impact he had on you? Well, it's weird because like you were saying, it's like Hinata, through this chain reaction, has an impact on you through almost every character. Almost all of them. Not everyone he gets to, but there are a good amount of them who are inspired and or have an impact on you because directly of what Hinata had put forward. And maybe that's giving Hinata too much credit, right? I think we're going to get to Okaiwa, who's on the opposite end here, and that'll be a good one, so stay tuned for that. And one of our gripes with Okaiwa, not to get too much into it, is that we feel that the show and the fans give him more credit than is due on a lot of things, where it's like, oh, thank God Okaiwa existed so this thing could happen. And I do have to dial myself back because I do find myself even doing that same thing, but applying it to Hinata at times, where it's like, well, did Hinata really have too much to do with that in that scenario? And I kind of have to really think about it, because it's like I'm just automatically attributing all the praise to him. But yeah, I'm talking in circles here. Point is that Hinata's just kind of the GOAT, and I like him, and I could definitely see S. I can see A, but I think if I had to choose, I think it'd be S.
I'm going S.
Yeah. Long-winded way of saying S.
It's just what it's got to be.
The protagonist, dude. He's the freaking protagonist.
Dude, and I feel like he learns technically so much in this season in terms of how to play. He learns to play with more than his instinct, and yeah,
there's so much growth with him in this season. It's fantastic. During that training arc and the greed episode that he has, where he has to come to terms with, okay, I have to be there for the team, but I also have to make sure that I'm not falling behind.
And again, I feel like maybe this gets highlighted as much as it does because he's the protagonist, but like when he's one of the characters that, like, when he gets in the zone, there's few characters that, like, when they get in the zone, you know what I mean, their presence becomes amplified. But it's like, I remember that last game with Seijo, dude, when he's playing and he like goes to like receive or hit the ball and then like falls off the court, but like jumps back up.
Yeah.
And, like there's
a lot of growth.
I love him.
Yeah, he's
so much.
awesome. All
All
right.
right. Iwa is next on the list.
The real captain of Seijo.
Yeah, the actual best player on Seijo. You can fight me on that. Because here's my thing. We have your boy underneath him too, who we'll get to, Shigeru. I just feel like there's players on Seijo that nobody talks about or cares about because it's Okaiwa's team, and they're like, all right, Okaiwa's like, better than Jesus, but like all these other dudes are lucky he exists. And it's like, I don't know though, because Seijo's got some other fucking sleepers, all right? Let's not, he doesn't play this fucking game by himself. Anyway, one of them is Iwa, who is the ace for Seijo, and one of the things I love about this guy is how much there is to his character that you don't immediately recognize, right? Because when you meet him in season 1, he kind of just seems like Okaiwa's anchor, right? Like he's the guy that's always, knocking on Okaiwa. He's bringing him down every time he gets a little like, starts floating up into the clouds, and that he's just a good volleyball player. But in this season, in their match with Karasuno, you really get to see his opinion of the game, his opinion of this team and Karasuno, and again talking about like these characters that Hinata through a sort of chain reaction influence. Once Karasuno starts like tipping over the scale here and starts like winning, especially in the final set, like you see Iwa, I wouldn't say like get shaken necessarily, but like the wall sort of feels like it comes down on him, and he really like, again, he gets in the zone and he gets in this thing where he's like, I am the ace, I am the dependable one on this team, like I have to be able to do my job. And like you see him sort of like again, not like unravel, because it's not that he like breaks down, but like you see him open up, so to speak, and he really sort of like cuts loose. And you see one of the moments I'd never forget in season 2 is when Karasuno, like they get a point for some reason against Seijo, and I forget who misses it, but then Iwa like immediately spikes the ball back and scores another point, and he's like, all right, it's even now, don't worry about it, we're fine, like keep going. And like that's who he is. He's this guy who like every time somebody on Seijo falls, he's picking him up, and he's like, let's go. And I just love that.
And just
shit.
the raw amount of hard work that he puts in, you know, I know you highlighted this, so I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but this is one thing that elevates a lot of these characters is their passion and love for the sport. And it's always awesome to see the hard work that they put in, right? That's one of the key things with someone like Okaiwa, right? He's watching footage, he's putting in the work. But I do love, like, this man is putting it, we see the flashbacks, and it's like, we see, like, we get swept up in that game by, like, Mad Dog, right? And, like, how just athletic he is naturally and all that kind of stuff. And he puts in work, too, for sure. But a man here is like, is this stoic demeanor like when he needs to, but he knows how to turn it on a dime. And I don't know, I really liked it. But anyway,
100%.
What do you think?
A?
I could see A. Yeah, I was thinking A or B, but I could see. Yeah, I can see A here. I like that. I like him a lot. That's just bias, straight up. I could see an argument for B if you wanted to say that he doesn't have as much of a presence overall, with some of these characters. But I know for me subjectively, he had a pretty big impact on me.
Yeah,
so
I think he does.
There you go.
Yeah. Get up there, boy. All right, Kageyama.
S.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to say it for a second, I feel like, again, he is the mirror to Hinata in the sense that the growth that Hinata has, like Kageyama is there. They're like a package deal, right? It's like 100%. He's had the same amount of growth this season. All the reasons we said for Hinata, he just has a slightly different personality with it, but overcoming a lot. Another thing too was the tests that they had to overcome in the beginning. I forgot about that. There's been so much. Season 2 was jam-packed. And his training arc when they have the fight with each other, but then when it all comes together later, or he has to deal with the fact of being like switched out at times, etc. I could go into it, and I don't want to undermine or undercut our gushing about Kageyama, because we do love him, for anyone who is really waiting for this character to come up. But I do feel like for similar reasons and his own standout reasons, though, Kageyama definitely is an
plus, like his
character.
match with Sage, like I feel like playing this team is as much a feat for Karasuno as a team as it is for him personally, right? This team has Okaiwa on it, who is his senior, but also like a lot of the players on Seijo were from his junior team. There were a lot of people that in a way, this facing this team represented facing like the old version of himself. It was like playing this, these are the people that were so uninspired by who he used to be, and now he's only going to be able to beat them if he can become somebody better, become a different and a better version of himself. And through people like in Katsuno, his connection with like people like Hinata, he does evolve into a very dependable and a very good setter. We know he has, it's always stated that he has this natural gift and skill when it comes to athleticism and the game and like setting, but it's also highlighted that like that's not going to be enough. He's going to have to learn how to cooperate with the team. He's going to have to learn how to think about everybody else and not just how well he's doing or what he wants to do, and he does do that, and that's what gets them ultimately this victory. And that's a huge leap for him.
Well said. I totally agree.
All right, Chicken Little.
Yeah, we got 2 Chicken Littles on this list, but this one you were just there. Go back. So one more. There we go. So Kanji. This one, Kanji. I definitely Kanji hit a soft spot for me, and I definitely wanted to put him on here. Although he does have like an episode, basically. We have this a lot in this season, and in this season in particular, being that we see so many teams where it's like they have to throw a wrench into it to liven it up, switch things around, right? And it's usually the introduction of a new player that just decided to start playing that month. You know what I mean? Or, was like sleeping on the team and then is like, oh, I'm here, by the way, this is our new secret weapon. He is one of these guys, so this big iron wall dude, along with his teammates. But I really dug his personality, to be honest. I loved his enthusiasm for the game. And I felt like, and maybe this is no, it's not really mean to say, but I felt like he did a lot of the things that Aon.
I don't know how to say his name.
I don't know.
Aon.
Yeah.
Just go with that.
Takanobu. Yeah, that like Takanobu doesn't because of his stoic and quiet demeanor, which there's nothing wrong with that. No. But sometimes I think in our first tier list, I was, he hit a soft spot too, but I was like, I just wish he'd talk more. We eventually had to wind up putting him down. I feel like Kanji kind of fits, takes up that role, but has an overwhelming amount of enthusiasm. And I just really loved what they did with his character. He is one of the new characters that immediately stood out to me and be like, I like this guy. He's really cool. But that being said, and again, this doesn't mean that I dislike him. It just means that there are a lot of great stacked characters here. I think my verdict would be C for him, just due to the fact that, again, he was a real standout for me in the episode that he was there, but he only had an episode, and it wasn't only about him anyway. And while he has a great personality, I don't think it justifies, in my book, enough for him to, be on that level of even B, for like what we have up there already. So that's my opinion.
I would agree with C, because he definitely didn't stand out to me as much as he stood out to you. I do like him, and I think he's a cool character, but I don't know. He just kind of, didn't really like stick the landing for me. Like when his episode was cool, but sort of like once we passed that team, I was like, okay, he's one of the day tech guys.
Sure.
So I would say C also.
No, that's fair.
That feels fair.
That's fair.
All right, next boy on the list is Bokudo's teammate. Find their team.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah.
Does that say something?
KG. So KG, yes. KG is the, actually I want to know specific, I don't want to get his position wrong. Setter. So he's the setter and vice captain for Bokudo's team. This guy is cool because he's sort of like, it's funny that he's the vice captain, because in a way I feel like he's the captain. Like he's the guy, he feels like the actual anchoring point for this team, in the sense that Bokudo, his whole gimmick is that he's an incredibly good ace, and he's an incredibly good player, and he can spike the ball really well and all that stuff. But like once he misses a spike, or once he sort of like gets in his head, he gets like, it like exponentially spirals downwards, and he just gets like trapped in his own mind, and it gets into this like emo state where he's like, I'm not playing anymore. Nobody give me any don't toss any balls to me. And so then KG is like, all right, rest of the team, let's go. We still have a game to play. Like Bokudo's kind of in his way right now, but we still got a match to win, and kind of round. He's in a way, his team is compensated by learning to play and defend with just by themselves without him, which I think is odd but cool, right? Like when we talk about a lot of these teams and what their gimmicks are, a lot of them have gimmicks or unique lineups or setups to how they play. Certain players they depend on more, certain ones that, their strategies work best with. This is sort of their thing, right? Is to throw Bokuto at the wall, get as many points as they can until he gets, inevitably gets in his head, and then sub him out, and the rest of the team picks it up and starts playing again, which I think is really cool. And I just love his attitude with that, where it's like, this is the way it's got to be. He kind of reminds me of, weirdly, in a sense, from Tower of God, Novik. Where he's like, really? Where he's very just like, all right, like, this is what it is. Because even when Bokuto is like still upset, he'll like turn to his team and be like, guys, we got to run through the routine again. And they're like, yay, Bokuto. Like there's just this whole pomp and circumstance that they all like chime in and work together with. And I don't know. I absolutely love it. I think I would say B, but I could be persuaded with C.
That's a high one. Yeah. I was gonna say D for this guy, and again, I want to make this abundantly clear. That does not mean I dislike him.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, out of the characters that we have here, I have to rate his likability and his impact on me. His impact on me was 0. I totally forgot this character even existed until you brought him up, and I forgot his name and what his position was, and you see where I'm going with this. So it's like, I feel like in my own mind, I'd be lying to myself if I said that he was higher than that, because he just strictly fell. Not that he fell flat. I don't dislike him. I just don't remember him. He's not rememberable. So
I think the only reason he's stuck in my mind, I mean, that's totally fair, obviously. But I think the only reason he's stuck in my mind is because he plays such an integral part to this team working. Like, Bokuto is a good player, and he does what he does, and he does it really well. But because Bokuto by nature is such a glass cannon almost, it feels weird for me to be like, Bokuto's the standout player of that team. He's one of the good players, but I kind of feel like without this dude, this team wouldn't work, because he's the one that, like, when Bokuto has these moments or whatever you want to call them, like, he's the one that's like, all right, like, he like is rounding the team up and like sort of recollecting them, and like actually, like, I feel like it's like he not saying he does most of the work, but there's just a lot more on his plate in it. Like, Bokuto kind of can just come, like, it's almost like Bokuto's like working by himself in a weird, he's not, but like in a way where it's like Bokuto's coming in, he's doing his thing, then he's getting emotional, and he's dipping out, and like, you know what I mean? Like, he's not really rotating with the team, where this guy has to encompass whatever Bokuto's got going on, whatever the rest of the team's got going on, and find a way to marry these two and swap and coordinate them in and out. And so I guess the presence on me was just, I'm like, wow, this kid like does a lot. Like, he's got to like constantly be worried about like what the team is doing at all times.
Yeah, no, I definitely see that argument. I think at the end of the day, there is something to be said about the character's likability or impact based off of the role that they have to play on their team, and if that speaks to you as an individual. So I definitely see that. I try not to get too swept up in this is what this guy is so important for his team mentality, unless, again, that what I said before, if that really is a big thing for you, then fair enough. But I mean, I think you could take the same argument with a lot of these characters and their importance of the team, like even Okaiwa, right? But we're not there yet, but I'm sure you have choice words, So I'm like, I guess that's where I am. It's like, okay, he plays a very important role, but in terms of if we're going off likability and the impact that they had on us subjectively, I had 0. That doesn't mean I don't like him. He's not someone that I remember at all. So that's why I'm there. But I mean, that's where I am. I don't know. I mean, us meeting in the middle would be C, unless you have a different change.
No, I could go to C. I'm not married to
fair enough
to B.
It's gonna be so hard to put someone at D. Because I was like, shit, if that guy ain't making D, I don't know who is. So anyway, next we have the boy, everyone's real favorite character, maybe. I don't know. I think he's got to be up there, right?
He's up there. I'd have to say, out of my top 3 characters, like, he's there. He's in my top 3. I really love Kenma. I think one of the first reasons I loved Kenma is because of his personality. I love this idea that there was this guy who felt this like sense of, I don't even know what you call it, like kinship and responsibility to the team, and that's where his motivation to play comes from. But he's not like a Hinata. He doesn't play. He's not here because he's like, I just want to live, breathe, and sweat volleyball like all day. Like he actually is kind of indifferent to the game in a way, and seems really bothered by playing it and like going to these practices. Like, you know what I mean? Like he kind of just he's like a gamer, bro. He's just out here like he so clearly kind of has like other aspirations and maybe other things he either likes doing more or wants to do. But like I said, this responsibility that he has, where initially it sort of feels like to Tetsudo specifically, but I think it starts to encompass a team. And then, funny enough, I think once he meets and plays against Hinata, there is this spark sort of gets lit in him where he's like, oh, I really enjoy playing volleyball when I'm playing against Hinata. I want to do that more. I love that. I love that character. Plus, some of these characters, I think this is a fair point. I like his character design. I like the hair. I did like the cat aesthetic. He has a very cat-like aesthetic.
Yeah. Fair enough.
It's cool.
He's also has the same voice actor as Eren Yeager. So anybody on that level for me now obviously gets a notch up because it's badass. But so Kenma for me is like obviously goes up not just because he's just likable in the reasons that you described and just in general. I don't even gravitate necessarily towards the kind of character that he is just naturally, but like he's an exception. It's weird. I do like him a lot. I do feel like he is always that, that homie there. I will say I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I don't think he had a very relevant role. Let me put it this way. In season 2, let's put it this way. If we're going off impact that he had on me, I don't remember him impacting me much. I remember season 1, he gets a really big highlight and it's like, dude, this character's crazy and he doesn't care about the game and he's so smart. He has this weird thing. He holds the team together, etc. He was just kind of there, you know what I mean? And just like, yo, what's up, Hinata? Homie, got your number, you know what I mean? Like, yo, congrats on the win, type thing. But like, he's not really doing much besides that. So I do have to admit that like the ranking I give him would just be purely off of how much I'm just biased towards that character. And I think for me, my gut goes, if I'm stacking up against some of these other characters too, I think my gut goes with B because I think his actual impact on me this season was 0, but I do think I like him quite a bit. So I think that's where he goes for me personally.
But I really like Kenma though. Yeah, I guess the words you're saying make sense in some way. All right.
It doesn't actually matter at the end of the day.
I guess. Oh, it matters. This is all I have.
You can put it higher if you want.
Don't do it. No.
Don't worry. I'll get stoned in the comments for that or something like that.
Yeah, because I'm going to make 9 accounts and stone you myself.
What the hell's wrong with you, dude?
All right. Next is Mad Dog.
The Mad Dog. Kentaro, right?
Yes, Kentaro. Who... I don't know. I think he's obviously a really good player, and he's got the whole like lone wolf aesthetic, which is always kind of a hit or miss for me. I don't know what it is. Sometimes like it's on a character, and I'm like, oh, okay, you kind of you're doing things not by the book, and you're just on your own shit. And sometimes I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like you just like, what are you 14? Like grow up. This shit is old. So it just depends on the day.
For real though.
But like. I don't know what it is because some characters it does match well, but it's more about like the world that they're in and like why that character picked up that archetype.
Yeah.
And like with Mad Dog, I'm like, I get why you would have had to start there, but it seems like he at times almost is like unrealistically and needlessly like that just to like be that character. And it's like, oh, because realistically, I'm like, dude, if you're playing with this team and you've gotten this far with them, at some point, like, I feel like you have to just acknowledge it. Like, all right, I'm here. And I don't have to, like, fucking be friends with all these dudes. But, like, I got to, at some point, it's just, like, talk to them, work with them, like, play on the team. Because, like, Seijo didn't get to where they were, which was it's not the finals, right? It was the semifinals. Just with him alone. Like, he wasn't, like, Mr. Marine from season 3, where it's, like, he carried the team. So in my mind, I'm like, dude, you're going to have to play with these kids and work with them. So like that, the personality and attitude kind of rubbed me the wrong way sometimes. And it just seemed like sometimes it was like way too much.
Yeah. He comes out like a bat out of hell. Like he comes out crazy. But I do have to admit that, at least for me, I do feel like he has character development within the course of that game. Now, granted, that game spans like 5 episodes. So he has like 5 episodes worth of growth. But I do feel like there is a potential turnaround. I did really like when we got the backstory of him. And then it kind of brought it all full circle to see where he was now, because it was, at first he was just so freaking stubborn, right? He couldn't mesh with them at all. But I really like the fact that he practiced with the neighborhood guys or the college guys, right? And was just like, I just don't know how to incorporate, like, I don't know how to mesh with this team. And he eventually gets kind of the talking to by some of the older folks, and he goes there and he still is kind of, you know what I mean? He's like kind of all over the place. But then now most people would attribute this to Okaiwa, which I think is complete bullshit. I actually think it's Shigeru, who is the main proponent of this, although Okaiwa and I'm forgetting everyone's name. I'm so sorry. Iwa are relevant, definitely, in that as well. They definitely help put him into place and kind of make him understand his spot and stay in his lane. They all have an impact. But that being said, I do feel like by the end of it, he is kind of coming into his own and is growing in his own way and like trying different things at the end of it and understanding how to incorporate himself with the team, and definitely has that hot streak because you have to have these like wacky characters that have this like glaring weakness. Otherwise, he'd just be unstoppable. Because, dude, the amount of line art this guy got, the amount of like crazy art this guy got during the season, like, if that didn't just scream like athleticism, like I thought that was what they were putting forward, is that like you could put this guy in a boxing ring, on a basketball court, in an ice rink for playing hockey, on a soccer field. Like this guy's going to be at least decent at anything you put him in. It's just a matter of getting his mind right. You know, all that being said, I just wanted to say my piece on him, but I don't know what you would rank him. I could see, my gut is B. Maybe I have a little more sympathy towards him. I can see C as well. I don't think for me personally he went up to A, certainly not S, but I don't think he's D for me. I do think that there are some characters in here.
So,
he did have an impact on me. Let's just put it this way. Yeah.
Right. I don't know. So I would initially say C. I could see an argument for B. Would you say that his character though, like would you say his character impacted you more like in the latter half of the season? So let's say like after his character gets a little bit of development, or like before when he initially comes out? And I guess my point in that is, do you think that if it's the former and his character really stood out more after the fact, that would validate him being at B as opposed to C, if it wasn't consistent? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So to answer your first question, I actually was impacted by him in both, but in different ways. Okay. It was a different kind of impact that he had. It was just this raw presence the first time that I was like, okay, my eyes are on you. You know what I mean? And it's like I couldn't help but gravitate towards just this sheer amount of athleticism. Like I said, the show definitely did him favors with all the art that they gave him, these incredible spikes. You know, this mad dog. I was definitely impressed, and I was definitely affected by that when it came out. But then I was affected in a different way when we saw the flashbacks and all that, in a sense that it's like, okay, this isn't just going to be this trope where it's like this guy's unreachable and we just have to use him sparingly, which is kind of what they do. But like there's a heart under all of that stone, you know? So it was cool to see that turnaround for me. So I don't know if that's dodging the question, but I did have an impact. It was just in a different sense. So I guess maybe that's why I'm a little, you know what I mean? Like,
no, all right, that's fair enough.
That makes sense.
I've been persuaded. Also, we're like halfway through this. Are we doing tokens? Is that a thing?
We could.
Okay.
I'm fine with it. For those of you who don't know, thank you for making it halfway through this episode. Isaiah and I will have like a house rule where at the end of the tier list, we can choose to move a character to any slot that we want and that they're cemented in there. But we can't mess with each other's token. So, just so you know. Anyway.
Good. All right, next up is Goddess Kyoko.
Yes.
I have been completely persuaded to join the Kyoko Club, because I've just been melding with Nishinora's personality more and more each episode. And now I'm like before, like season 1, I was like, okay, she's pretty cute. Now I'm like, yeah, take my money. Like, whatever you want.
If you are Nishinoya, then she's like triple S, right? Exactly. Like this isn't even high enough a tier.
So I want to say, so this is season 2.
Season 2.
Trying to get my seasons into order in terms of like what happened. I would actually say this is probably, so again, at the time of recording this, we've watched all 3 seasons of Haikyu. I would actually say this is her best season, in my opinion, because I think this is the season that she literally does the most, and like her role and her presence specifically is felt the most in the season in terms of like why she is managing this team, what role she plays in doing that, and how her, how her impact is felt throughout the rest of the team. And it's sort of chain reaction, like connected through Yachi, who is one of the newer managers. But it's like, in a way, her coming in like highlights Kyoko more and lets us see, a little bit more of what she's about. And again, just how her role functions, which I really liked seeing. And I actually wanted more of, to be honest. It's just hard because I feel like I have to rank most of her off of my likability of her because she's not a volleyball player. Yeah. So functionally, she doesn't do, she won't have the impact that a lot of these other characters have because a lot of them are volleyball players.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, if you like twist your perspective to rank her, she almost has her own rule. Like managers almost have it, and maybe even coaches have like a different style of way you judge them, which is okay, being that a lot of this is subjective. Like if you want to go off,
that's what I mean. Like most of it has to be on like how I just feel about Kyoko as a character.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, if before you rank it, if I could say a piece, because I'm actually kind of in between here, I do feel as if that Kyoko definitely this is her season, 100%. As compared to season 1 and 3. Mm-hmm. And I do feel like she does much more and definitely gets fleshed out as a character. But the question for me is that, okay, does that automatically justify putting her at like a ridiculously higher rank just because she did more than season 1? So I don't want to undercut her, but like it's almost as like, okay, was it enough? Was that still like was your best? I'm gonna sound really mean, but I'm trying to word this in a way that isn't sounding like a jerk, but like I guess that's just what it is, right? Is that like Kyoko just as a character I like, kind of like the Kenma thing where I could see it knocked up a couple, and she does some really cute things throughout the course of the season and some things that are very relevant, right? She has a lot of moments of teaching the new manager and all that kind of stuff. But I guess, all right, you know what? Long story short, here I'm between A and B, and I don't know where. Yeah, okay. I don't know.
I guess in my mind, it's like you were saying, like, is her doing more enough? In my mind, it's sort of like, well, I liked her in season 1, and she did X amount of stuff. I still like her the same amount, if not more, in season 2, and she did more stuff. So it's like innately, I would view that as doing more or enough anyway, because it's like it's not like, again, grading her not in comparison to other people. All she did was go up from where she was before, because in this season she like physically and literally has done more in terms of her role, but and adding on my likability, which has always been where it was from season 1.
Sure. What's your heart tell you?
My heart tells me A.
Okay. A it is then. Put her up in A.
There you go, girl.
That's the girl.
Get in there.
All right. Next we have the Russian model Lev.
Russian roulette.
Yeah.
Snake Master.
He's
Snake
funny.
Master
Introduced early in season 2.
Yeah, and he gets his own OVA, which is
he does. Yeah, his own OVA. Kind of this tall goofball. The standard. Okay, this character's way too tall for anyone's good. How do we nerf them? I just started playing volleyball. Fits into that mold. We get a couple guys like that. I like Lev. I have to say he kind of had a similar impact that someone like Bokudo had, where it was like I couldn't help but every time being like, freaking Lev, classic Lev. Like every time he came on screen, it was like I couldn't help but feel like this warm-hearted sensation where I'm like, he's just such a goofball, and it's like it's really likable to me. Without going in like too far, I think my gut probably tells me B, because I think maybe I'm being a little too biased if I put him A, because like someone like Bokudo, like I said, I think Bokudo is the top new character introduced, at least a volleyball player for me. But I definitely have a soft spot in my heart for Lev, just in general, and I really want to see that character grow. So
I completely agree, and I think if Lev had like the skill and or experience that Bokuto had, I'd be putting him in A too. But I feel like it's like Lev is like, it's a lot of his personality. It's his personality and like that inherent skill, because you see once he gets the connection with people like Kenma, like he can stand up with the best of them. But he clearly still has a lot to learn when it comes to being consistent with it and like really learning the tools and tricks and trade. I'd say B too.
Okay, fair enough.
Get over there, boy. All right. Now, when we talk about what is love, most people really want to separate the mind from the heart. But I am one who believes that they are one and the same. and that sometimes you just have to follow your instincts and, do what you feel is right, because we only get one life. And when you're on your deathbed, you're going to ask yourself, do I have any regrets? And I don't want to have any regrets.
Said I put Madoka Yachi at less than S on that tier list we made way back.
Oh, man.
If this was a waifu tier list,
yeah, I know.
100% she's top.
I know.
100%. But this is it.
This is a so okay.
Reining it in here.
Yeah,
it's not a waifu tier
let's
list.
Start with. I do actually like. I'm like in the middle with her as a person, because I like the role that she played as sort of this tough love mother to Yachi, where it's like, no, like, because at first she kind of comes off as like this cold, distant parent, right? Where she's like, I'm doing my business thing, whatever you do, whatever you're doing in school, I don't care. But it wasn't so much that she didn't care, but it's just that she knew she had known that Yachi has a tendency to sort of like half-heartedly go in and out of things. Yeah. And she was like, she has one of these lines that actually still sticks with me to this day, which is, for someone like you who is not concerned or half-heartedly doing something, it is such a disservice for you to be around people that are super incredibly passionate about whatever it is they're doing, because you're doing nothing but bringing them down. And that line and that sentiment is so true, and it's basically the focal point to her character, because that's where she comes from. She's very much a tough love motherly figure. She doesn't want to just cradle and hold Yachi's hand through life. She wants to make sure that whatever Yachi is doing, that she's doing it because she gives a damn about it and genuinely wants it 100%. And sure, she's going to be there to catch Yachi if she falls and support her, as a parent should, but she's by no means here to coddle and just give Yachi whatever she wants and get her and bail her out of whatever her problems are.
Well said, honestly. I really liked, just likability there for aesthetic reasons, obviously aside, which is relevant. Fair enough. It's an unfair world out there, and sometimes looks can get you there.
And also, let's just be, realistic for half a second. So much of this cast, bro, is like teenage boys. It is so refreshing when we get to see a woman, a whole ass woman, bro. I'm just yes.
Woman, dude.
Okay, not to be clear, not a woman, okay? Because Kyoko is a woman. Yachi is a woman. A woman, okay? Like, she does stocks, bro, okay? She got bills to pay, and she's paying them, bro. She comes home with that suit, and you just know that whatever went wrong that day, she handled it. She took care of it, bro.
You're hitting me with one of those speeches that, like, altogether wouldn't actually justify her going higher, but you're saying it with so much gusto and confidence that I'm like, you know what? S, that's it. I'm like, wait a minute. No, she is great, and it's really heartwarming to see her finally, because she doesn't mean ill intent, like you said. Yeah. Like, she's not trying to be a jerk. You know what I mean? When she comes across, she's just very cut and dry, pretty blunt. But she's there as a mother, to help when help is needed. I think all things considered, I would probably put her C if I had to choose.
That's fair.
For kind of some of the same reasons that we have Suki's brother in C, So
I feel you.
But waifu tier list, S.
100%, 110%. All right, next we have Chicken Little 2. Because for some reason that hairstyle specifically, the guy who made the show was like, yeah, let's do that.
I can't remember his name either at the moment.
There he is.
Oh,
Noboru. It's pretty cool. So he's kind of, at least in my mind, intrinsically tied to this gentleman right here, because he is the former captain of this team, Ogaminami. I like him. He's a cool guy. I'm actually kind of in the same vein with him that I am with Kenji here. He's Kenji and he's Kanji. That's funny. Where I like him as a person and as a character and the role he plays, but the role he plays is kind of this weird mix of like former player and now kind of pseudo mentor in a way, which again is good. And this team, specifically, they do kind of need that. They need that like kick in the pants at the end of it and throughout their match. But I would be lying if I said he left any sort of significant impact on me past the literal episode that like he was in and he had that speech, because it's like he had that moment. I was like, oh damn, that was pretty heartfelt and cool. But then again, as soon as that moment came and left, I was like, all right, and the next thing, So I would say C.
I would agree. Yeah, I think C is good. All right. Next we have the
scroll
boy
up here to S.
Nishinoya.
Okay. I just fucking love this dude, bro. I don't know
He's great.
how else to say it, but like Nishinoya's stance is something, and it's actually funny that like Nishinoya is one of my favorite characters and Daichi's one of your favorite characters, because I feel like fundamentally they play a very similar role in the sense that Nishinoya is very much like the back anchor character, right? He is here to play this position where his sole job is to keep everybody afloat. And I feel like, especially in this season, like him, one, just technical stuff, just to get that out there, him learning that, like, the libero coming up and doing the pass is absolutely fantastic and amazing. But in more ways than one, and even just outside of the technical stuff and outside of the court, I feel like he starts to learn what it means to hold people up, like, emotionally, and like, with his presence and with his words. Like, I can't remember the team that, I think it's when they're about to play Seijo, where, everybody is like kind of jittery and kind of nervous about, like, this match, because it's like they lost to Seijo before and stuff, and he's sort of like, he's like, all right, let's go. Like, everybody on the court, we're going to do it. Like, and he has this, he starts to develop this presence again that people like Daichi have, and even Suga, where it's like learning to understand where the team's at, and learning to understand that, like, if somebody like him, if somebody whose job it is to always catch people and always pick up when they miss a ball or make a mistake, if he falls, everybody else falls after him. So he cannot fall. That is the last thing he can't afford to do, and never does. And you see that not only in, again, his skill and the way he plays his position, but also in his personality. Nishinoya is not somebody that gets like, he's like, I'm the best fucking libero that's ever existed. Like, you guys are, no liberos ever come. Like, it always amazes me how incredibly humble he is. He never, for once, like, takes his position for granted, his technique, his skill, anything that he's learned. He's always looking at, like, some other libero or even player that is better than him, and is like, all right, how do I get even higher then? How do I get to your level? Because I'm playing here and this is good, but, like, I know I can do better. I know I can do more. And it's like, it just speaks fucking volumes to me. I
love this character too. And sometimes, it's just this habit that we have on the show, and just anime fans in general, when we get really excited about a character that we really like, we get really excited about that character we like. So sometimes it can, being that this is a 3-man show, and in this case a 2, sometimes it could be overshadowed how much the other castmate likes said character, because the one person is just so head over heels that it's like. But with that being said, I would like to, put it out there now. And I mean, I think I've made this pretty clear. I love Nishinoya too. Nishinoya is like one of my favorite characters. He's really awesome. I just let Isaiah do most of the talking because he, I agree with everything he says, and, he says it well. So there's that. But yeah, I do think that he plays a great role this season as well. He always has an impact on me. I totally agree with you that he is this back anchor that, as soon as he falls, everyone falls like dominoes behind him. Like, he has to, and Tanaka kind of serves that role in a similar thing. And obviously Daichi, because he's the captain. But where it's like, they cannot break. You cannot break Noya. And that is something that is so commendable. He won't let himself be broken. And I'm very excited to get into our season 3 tier list, because, that is exemplified pretty damn strong.
I was about to say that, but I'm like,
because I have to keep this in season 2 right now. But I still think that he is S material for, because he has a lot of growth as well. It's kind of hard to rank some of the guys below S or A that are on Karasuno anyway. That's the team we follow, and all of them have a substantial amount of growth. It's not just Hinata and Kageyama, right? Like, they each have their thing where he learns how to set when he needs to, and there are just some fantastic saves. I think is this the season where he saves it with his foot, or is that in season 1?
Ooh,
I can't remember.
I think that's
so similar.
I think it's this season.
I don't know.
Hold on. I'm really quick. I'm going to look up a clip of that.
Are you going to look up a clip?
Like, yeah.
Yeah. Bottom line, though, I think that Noya has enough moments, along with a lot of the Karasuno team, that really stick out to me, and put him as an S tier character. But we're gonna see real quick where this was.
Daito?
Oh no, this is season
Oh,
one.
it was season 1.
Yeah, because it's
Okay.
first day tech. I don't think they first day tech in season
No,
2.
they only versed him in
Because
season 1.
Seijo beats them. But anyway, regardless, he has plenty of moves like that and all that kind of stuff. So, and just by sheer likability, he automatically at least goes up to bare minimum of A. So then it's just a matter of like, did he do something relevant? And he always does. So he always winds up in S. But anyway, before we get swept up in a bunch of videos.
I just got mad because I clicked on this video. Wait. This wasn't even... What the fuck was the receive? Oh, it was here.
I don't know, bro. They got like this whole weird thing going. But anyway, tier list. Bear with me here.
I'm sorry, but it's right here. we just gotta watch that.
All right, that's dope.
Wait for it. Yeah, that's a cum shot right there. All right.
Anyway, yeah, S.
Cool.
All right. So the next one.
We're here.
This is probably what most of you came here for because it's Okaiwa. And as most of you know, Isaiah and I aren't willing to just kind of run with the crowd on this one, or the show for that matter, because the show goes to great lengths to really try and pump this character up. I feel sometimes unjustly, as compared to some of the other ones. But I think in our last tier list we put Okaiwa at C.
Yeah.
And I think the real question is if there is any growth or change there.
So
Go for it.
I was to say that right off the bat, I can see Okaiwa going 1 tier higher
Okay.
strictly because of his skill. And I don't say that to like reiterate the fact that I don't like him as a person, but I do feel like if you were to pick a season that showcases Okaiwa's skill, this season with this match that they have at the end, I mean, we were talking before with Mad Dog getting all the aesthetics. When Okaiwa cuts loose and he gets his line art moments where he's fucking just whipping that shit at the fucking floor, like nothing but impressive. Like that, like I you know, because people always do this when I like get on Okaiwa about his personality. They're like, but he's really good. And I'm like, but I don't care. Like, because I feel like it's an invalid defense to defend his personality with his skill as a player because they're not the same thing. But that, you know, but for the record, then I don't want to overstate that I do think he's a fantastic player. I think he's one of the best players that we meet, not just in the sense that like literally he technically understands the game, but how well he plays his role, right? That's the whole thing he gets pumped up as is he's a setter that can bring out 100% of his team. And I think he genuinely does do that and like that role of like connecting all these dots on the court and being able to adapt on the fly, plus just the raw power that he brings as a setter. I think he has all of that in spades. So just off of that, and because we see it showcased, in my opinion, to its limit in this last match here at the end of season 2, I would rank him. I could see him going to B. I have nothing else in the positives to bump him up for, though, because I just can't stand the way that this man interacts with really anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I was saying before with like Mad Dog, but it's like this personality where it's like, you go in so strong, and in my mind, there's like no reason to be like that. But like they just are, and you're supposed to just be like, well, that's how they are. And it's like, okay, but that's like a person that like, I feel like almost even in real life, they'd be like, yo, knock it the fuck off. Like they just wouldn't work. That would not jive on a team. But like, whatever. I don't know. That's personal, my feelings aside, but I would, that's where I'm at.
So yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. Spoiler alert here. I'm leaning towards B. You know, Okaiwa has been the topic of discussion so many times for those of you who watched our reactions. In season 1 as well, we have, you know, kind of his introduction. I do feel like he bumps up a notch strictly because I do feel like the impact he had on me was he genuinely was like the antagonistic force to Karasuno and this entire team. And it reminds me heavily of the Rocky Balboa story for anyone who's seen the movies, you know, where he is like virtually the Apollo Creed, where like, this is okay. This is what it was meant to be. Yeah, I do feel like a lot of my gripe with Okaiwa, because like Okaiwa is tolerable for a couple reasons, but he's tolerable to me mainly because of the people that surround him. And I think that a lot of people, and again, this is me maybe like projecting a little because, you know, there are a lot of people that like him for who he is straight up without any other, you know, people's help. But I do feel like there is this element of the other character softening the blow of how much of a jerk off he can be. Because if you just take him in the abstract, if you just take, you just look in the vacuum here and it's just Okaiwa, you just isolate him in that moment, you take everyone else away from him. More times than not, he's kind of an asshole, to be honest, like with the way he acts, like he's super petty. You know what I mean? He's just downright jerk at other times. His ego is always getting in the way, in a lot of areas, very childish at times. I'm going off here. I'm going to love these comments. But genuinely, like he has a lot of personal growth to go through, like just volleyball aside, just like on a social level, like being able to socially interact with people and be like, the fuck is your problem? Like if I saw him at a party or like something or like some social gathering and he like did that shit and there wasn't somebody there to be like, whatever, even if there was, but especially if there wasn't, I'd be like, who the fuck do you think you're talking to?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like get out of my face. You know what I'm saying?
That's the thing is it's like what drives me the wrong way about that personality type is if everybody else is like that, if the competition or the atmosphere is so tense that like doing that is how you stave people off. Yeah. That's one thing. But we've seen that there are other characters who know how to like play with good skill and still be incredibly humble and respectful about it. So when somebody's not, it's like, in my mind, there's no reason to be like that. You don't have to do that, which means you're choosing to be like that, which doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, two things. Number one, this tier list is not ranking the best players. You know what I mean? We made that abundantly clear in the beginning. It's likability and the impact that they had on us. And number two, totally agree that doesn't excuse you from just overall having, your personality just be shit. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, I don't know. And like the thing, I guess the thing with Okaiwa here is that, hot take here. And, I'm gonna be real with it. I feel like the fandom a lot of times is what turns me off to this character even more than just this character in general.
Yeah, I get it.
And some people might take offense to that. Sorry, but not sorry. Like, this is one of those characters that is just so overly hyped that it's like, I can't help but like that means that when something is just hyped in general, like when you're like trying to get somebody to watch an anime or be like, I like this character because, and you hype them to like the high heavens, I'm going to pay special attention to that character now or that show. And I'm going to be like, and now everything that show does really well, I'm going to be like, wow, okay, they did it well. But everything that they do bad, it's gonna be glaring, And I feel like because this character is so ridiculously hyped by a lot of the fandom that I like when he does, his antics, it's like,
you know what it is? It's not even it's because he gets overhyped. And just to be clear, also, I've like met and talked to people who have been like, yeah, I like Okaiwa, like he's cool, but I get why you do, like, who have been like reasonable about it.
Yeah.
But I've met more people who have been like outlandishly worshiping of him, and that's my thing. If these people were like, yo, I love Okaiwa, but like I get why people don't, and I like understand he has flaws, but like that's not what they say. They're like, Okaiwa is perfect. So when I see this character exemplify traits that are very not perfect, I remember those people who said he's perfect, and I'm like, that guy? Like,
yeah, I don't know. I feel like, there's a lot of people, there are people too, you get the comments where it's like, I could understand how you're on the fence with him, in season 1, but after season 2, there's no excuse. And it's like, there is though. There is an excuse. Yeah. I'm not seeing I'm not seeing this turnaround where it's like he saved the orphanage from burning, in season 2, and it's like just wait till you get there. Like let's take someone like Suki, right? We haven't gotten to Suki yet, but Suki last time I ranked like D because I just didn't like him in season 1, I'll be real with you.
I agree.
But I liked him more in season 2, and then when we get to season 3, I have even higher praise to give him. That's an understandable character progression on that sort of thing. But, like, we kind of got the backstory of Okaiwa, and then that was the part where we're supposed to be like, okay, here's your backstory. Here's your moment. Let's grow from that, right? Where, like, Suki grows, right? He kind of has his whole worldview flipped on its head, and because of the people around him, surrounding him, he's like, okay, I'm going to make active steps. I'm still going to be a little bit of a pain in the ass, which he is, but I'm going to make active steps to try and, like, go towards this a little more. And even if I give people lip, like, I care.
Yeah.
Okaiwa's, like, whole character thing to me was that, okay, Okaiwa is an incredibly good player that works his ass off and is upset at the fact that someone like Kageyama with just raw talent is able to eventually outshine him, right? No matter how hard that Okaiwa works. It's this really sad thing where it's like, does hard work beat talent? In this case, eventually it's not going to, because Kageyama puts in just as much work, right? So eventually he's just math. But, and so Okaiwa takes offense to that. His ego gets in the way, and he has, these moments of this pettiness where he doesn't want to help Kageyama become better, etc. And that's the flaw, right? And that's what we're supposed to get over as part of the character development. I don't say it doesn't happen. You know what I mean? And like, it just doesn't even happen in season 2. It's not like he has this moment where it's like at the end of the game, like you could argue, right? At the end of the game when he's like, all right, we're 1-1, where it's like, okay, he sees Kageyama. And a lot of people will make the argument, it's like, no, you're not understanding. Okaiwa actually does see Kageyama as an equal, or he does see it. He just like, that's his thing. I understand that. My point is his delivery and his attitude.
Affirmation.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's like, sure, you can, he can have that feeling inwardly, but the point is that, when Kageyama comes to ask him, like that thing when he's with his nephew or whatever, when Okaiwa's with his nephew and Kageyama comes and he tries to plead with him to do it. And he's like, I know it's like this, I know it's like joking. And again, I think his nephew is the thing that softens the blow there because he looks like an idiot, but like just this whole rigmarole of making him go through this bullshit where it's like, bow to me and say it. And then I'm going to take a selfie and like the whole 9. And it's like, you could be like, Ian, you're taking it too seriously, but like, how could I not? You know what I mean? Cause like
the problem is, if he's
know.
always doing, like, if he did that once, it's like, oh, wow, you're, like, running this joke, haha. But he's like that all the time. Yeah. Every time you see him. So it's like, that's what I mean when it's like that kind of personality, like, dialed to 100 all the time. When it just becomes too much. And I'm like, dude, there's no, because he even talks the way he talks to other people when it's like when he's by himself or when he's like when it's just him and Iwa. And I'm like, dude, there's no crowd to impress here. Yeah. Take the walls down for a second and acknowledge these people as competent players. Just say it. I like you were saying, I get that like you think that inward, but what the does that matter if you don't say it, if you don't affirm it like publicly and vocally to these people? Kageyama, like it or not, looks the fuck up to you, dude. So like that's that.
Yeah, and then last gripe, because I couldn't wait to get to this. You know what I mean? This is come all the dislikes, whatever. And the last thing that drives me nuts is not even just the fandom, right? With that sort of thing where they pump him to high heaven for just like, it's the fucking show does it too, dude. I was like, no wonder half of these fans are so all over it because the show makes you do it. Because if you're not careful, you're like, okay. And you're like, wait a fucking second. That wasn't him. Like, you didn't even write that like properly. And like, there's so many times in the show where something will happen and we make jokes about it ad nauseum when it happens in the show because we're going to call it out. But it's like, and I fully admit that I fall into this trap with Hinata sometimes, and the show does too, where there are a lot of times where they're playing and people are scoring points or whatever, and they're like, that number 10 though, like they always make it a point to point out Hinata as like, oh, but number 10. It's like, wait, Hinata didn't even really do much this game. Like, what? Why are we? Okay, we're reinforcing this is the protagonist, this is the guy we got to watch out for. They do the same thing with Okaiwa, I think even more so. Where it's like, God, I can't believe the human race exists. Like, thank God Okaiwa was here, you know what I mean, to make this all happen. And there's just so many moments that, like, somebody will have a character moment or somebody on the team will do something, and it's like, man, that Okaiwa, just bringing his team together. And it was like, and it's like, I would get it if I literally saw those steps and being like, Okaiwa, like, pulling Mad Dog aside instead of being just like, yo, nice. You know what I mean? So, like, having a moment like, what's his face? Shigeru, where it's like, pins him against the wall, captain mode, here I go. You need to pull your shit together because it's like this, that, and the third. Or, he has these moments where it's like, all right, team, let's come in. And it's not them just being like, yeah, whatever, dude. And they turn his back and joke around. It's like, ha, Okaiwa, he's the greatest. Like a genuine moment where it's like, all right, everyone, relax for a minute, okay? This is how this has to go. Like some profound speech, something. You know what I mean? It's just like so surface level, and then it's just like pumped to be like
when Daichi talks to the Karasuno team before a game. You know that what he's saying is being carefully chosen to inspire and bring the team up. Yeah. But like then you're also expected to believe that Okaiwa, just by going, I trust you guys, and walking out, they're all like, let's go. It's like, what? You do it. What? How is that the same?
Like, I just know for me, like when he says his speeches, because I'm genuinely looking for moments to like him. Like, I'm dead serious. I know we've gone off on a tangent here, but like, I genuinely, when someone is like, no, you'll see, I'm actively looking for that moment. Like, I'm like, okay, I want to like this character, right? More than I do or whatever. And so I'm waiting for these moments in you know, if he's giving a speech or if he's like showing his captain roles, and I compare it to someone like Daichi, and I'm like, you're just not fucking telling me, dude, that like Okaiwa is like this grand leader that just like, you know, he's able to do this thing.
Like,
and it's like
wars.
You know, literally. Like, it's like ridiculous. And I just like the show itself and the characters within it, and then it bleeds into the fandom. It's a whole thing. Bottom line, I'm willing to put him B. And if I'm being completely honest with you, dude, I'm kind of putting him B just to kind of pander.
Because
like,
so am I.
Because, yeah, it's literally it. Because I genuinely do think he is a C character, but I do think, beyond pandering to B, the only reason that I'll go to B beyond that is that, again, for the initial thing I had in the beginning of this tirade, I do feel like he serves as a good antagonist, like someone to overcome, and he plays a vital role within within both season as the obstacle to overcome.
Sure.
And so, you know, there is that. I feel like it's a little weird to put him lower in that respect.
The clip of like, he's a good antagonist. He's a good force, like you said, to overcome.
Almost like you love to hate him.
Exactly. Yeah. that I could see. That I could justify B, but it is a little pandering.
It's a little bit pandering. You're welcome.
But yeah, exactly. You're welcome. Because I would also low key put him in C.
I said put him in D. No,
I feel like we just did Okaiwa. I actually want to skip Tanaka's sister and go to Shigeru to get because his whole thing is kind of is tied to this in a way.
Yeah.
Because the thing with Shigeru is, we even said this when we're making this list, we got to do our due diligence here because nobody else is going to do this. Nobody else is going to give this man the limelight and the justice he deserved because he earned it in this match. Because everybody else is like, oh, the Mad Dog's so crazy, Kaiwa's so perfect. Like, what else do you need? Shigeru, because I feel like this moment he had. Mad Dog literally would not have had the turnaround he had Shigeru not literally grabbed this man by the collar, which, not gonna lie, I got scared because I'm like, dude, this dude would bite your ear off in a second. Like, the balls you have to grab this dude by the collar and throw him up against a wall. But this dude, who looks like he just got out of prep school, grabs Mad Dog by the collar and he's like, yo, this is the reality of the situation right now. We're in this match. Everybody out there is playing their fucking heart out and playing right by each other's sides. I got swapped out for you. I'm not playing because you're on the field. So fucking show me that you have what it takes to be on that field and show me that you have earned the right to play with this team. And it's like, it works. Mad Dog hears that shit, internalizes it, and he's like, okay. And that is such a huge moment. All the more fact that it's not coming from Okaiwa or Iwa, somebody that we know from the Seijo team. This is somebody who is just a member of the team who was feeling a little distraught that Mad Dog got to play, and just because, again, it's kind of like a Kageyama situation, just because of Mad Dog's natural skill, Shigeru gets swapped out for him. But Shigeru's like, yeah, I know this dude's a good player. He can play the game, but he's not working with his team. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Like, he's not listening to anybody. Yep. And so through the match starts to get agitated by it and has this explosive moment where at the time I'm like, wow, that came out of left field. But then when you listen to what he's saying and when you think about it, you're like, no, that makes sense. Like, you think about it even on Karasuno, not everybody who's there at the court in that gymnasium gets to play in the game. Or if they do, it's not for a long time. So those people are watching you all the more because like he says in his moment or in his speech, Mad Dog has something to prove, not just to this team here and not to every opponent they face, but to Shigeru, to all the people who sit on the sidelines. Mad Dog has to prove that he's earned the right to play with his team in place of them, instead of them. And it was so cool and then so immediately stolen by fucking Okaiwa because right after that moment happens, not only does Seijo's coach, but fucking Suga from the Karasuno team both have this moment where they're like, wow, did you see the way that Shigeru talked to Mad Dog? Thank God Okaiwa's here. And it's like, what the fuck? What's happening? He didn't do that. No, don't take that from him.
Dude, once they got Suga in on it too, I was like, we're fucked. You know what I mean? Like, the show is just pushing this narrative so hard. It's like, are we for real? Like, the show literally pulled some backward shit where the show made him the character to do it, and then totally undermined that character moment.
God.
That was so wild to me.
Yeah,
That blew my
that was
mind when we
insane.
watched that. I was like, what the fuck just happened?
And you know what? That's the only reason he's on this list. Because if he had that moment and they just let that breathe or gave him the justice he deserved, I'd have been like, yeah, that was a cool moment, moved on. But the fact that they literally ripped that shit out of his mouth and was like, yo, well, Kyle, good speech that you gave. It's
Yeah,
like,
long may he live. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not letting that slide. I
Yeah, it
can't.
was ridiculous. And we were, you said it. We were like, no one's going to give this character the justice that he deserves because the show won't even do it, and neither will the fandom. And so, listen, tell me someone who had a tier list out there that gave this guy the credit he deserved. Fair enough, but I'm saying, like, as far as I know, we're the first people doing it.
Yeah,
100% deserves that moment. I don't even care what he goes on this tier list, to be honest with you. But just the fact that he's on this tier
100%.
list,
I kind of want to put him at C. But the point isn't that he ranks higher than Okaiwa. It's that he's on the list at all.
no. No, for real though. Like that was just that moment, dude, was just like so crazy. That was just when I was like, okay, we've gone overboard. Like this is ridiculous. Like whatever. Okay. But anyway, I think all things considered, I mean like CD is probably where it is because that is the one and only moment, although it is a very high impact moment, like big impact, and it did make me like him a lot. So if I'm going with bias, I could see C. If I'm looking at some of these other characters, there's only like 2, maybe 3 characters on here that I would consider D out of all this litany of them. I don't know. What do you think? What's your heart telling you? My
heart, and it is just off of bias and liking him, is C.
Let's put him C then.
D, but
yeah.
I really...
Nah, put him C. This is our tier list.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I do have the power.
You know what? Fuck it. All right. Now we're on Tanaka's sister. Let's get her name. Let's do this right. Because she's absolutely Seiko. Seiko is perfect. That's it. That's my argument. No, I really like Tanaka, and I feel like these two embody just the personality that is clearly like a family trait almost very well, where they're both like very headstrong, very in your face, very like, I'm going to tell you what it is, what I think, how I feel. Like, no, I'm not pussyfooting around this. I'm not sugarcoating anything. This is what it is. This is how I feel. But also this aesthetic, because we were talking about this, and not to like always harp on this with the female characters, but traditionally, she doesn't stand out, I feel, as much as some of the other female characters do because of her aesthetic alone, right? Because she kind of rocks that like lone wolf, kind of chaotic, like, bad girl aesthetic, but it's her personality. She has incredible charisma for somebody who you think was just like one of the bad kids in high school and is off doing her own thing. And she's like, she's working at that restaurant that, like, at the end of season 2. Oh, or I'm sorry. Actually, that's at the end of season 3. But she's out there like working. She's doing this, like, she has this. I forget what the name of it is, but that drum like band that she's a part of. Yeah. Like, she's out here doing things in the community, and she's actively involved, and like she clearly cares a lot about Tanaka and like the fact that he's into this sport and on this team and wants to be supportive. And I think that goes a long way. Plus, like, I'm not gonna lie, I don't have many siblings that would fucking drive 2 people from my high school volleyball team. Like that was cool. That was just all homie points in the world for that. I really like her. And I think her personality and her charisma alone, despite, how she looks, which I don't want to sleep on, she looks absolutely beautiful, is incredibly standout and incredibly makes her like one of the standout non-volleyball players, non-volleyball people in the cast.
Yeah, this character immediately jumped out to me. I love this character. She's actually one of my favorites. Like, if I had to say a top 5, maybe, she's definitely up there. Yeah, I really like her a lot. I mean, I really like Tanaka a lot, which is kind of this hand-in-hand. But I would argue, actually, that she plays as much of a role as someone like Tanaka. If you can maybe argue almost more. I'm kind of at a loss here for a lot of like super standout moments that Tanaka has in the season. And I'm sure he has plenty, and I'm sure you guys will light up the comments with them. But she just from frame 1 has been doing things that have just like have really made an impact on me about how much of a good person she is in her character. And her integrity, and just the fact that she's just fun. She's just so much fun and a looker. You know what I mean? Like, but all those things, seriously, like all those things, combined, I'm like, I genuinely love this character. There's really not much more I can say than that. She's at every game, cheering them on virtually the loudest when nobody else was. Okay, literally, she was the lone cheerer. Okay, like yelling. Besides the neighborhood guys, but she was louder. You know, she's there for Tanaka. She's not like this, like, she's not this, like, annoying sister. I mean, that's subjective, but, like, Tanaka's gonna be like, get off, whatever, but she genuinely cares about her little brother. And, you know, she's driving the teammates around where they need to go while doing this band thing, while working. Yeah. And it's a genuine huge support and provides a little bit of context, too, to things like, you know, the little giant and, you know, this, like, this background thing where it's like, what was it like when you were in school? And the whole nine. And, like, I just, like, if I could pick, like, out of some of the people to hang out with, you know, if I had to pick some people to be like, okay, you know what, I would genuinely spend the day with you, I would 100%, she would be top 3, like, every time that I'd be like, yo, what are you doing? You want to chill? You know what I mean? Like, get a bite to eat? Like, whatever, let's go do something. She'd be like, I'm there. I'd be like, let's fucking go. Like, just an awesome person, at least in the confines of the show. Love her personality. I think she's S. But that's my bias. Yeah.
Oof,
yeah.
wow.
She's my favorite female character in the show by leaps and bounds. Not leaps and bounds, but like,
damn.
And she's just one of my favorites in general.
Okay. I was gonna say B. Would you be willing to meet in the middle?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that we could do that, yeah. I'm just playing. Yeah, that's cool. I love her, bro.
She's cool. She's calling me. She said put her in S. What do you want me to do?
Like when you look at a picture and it always looks like they're looking at you, it's like she's doing it. She's winking at me, dude.
What's that? Kill the non-believers?
Love her, dude.
I got you, babe.
Love that character so much.
No, she is really cool. And I do honestly feel like between her, Suki's brother, and Yachi's mom, like a lot. I think it gets a little over or understated how much some of having like a good family pillar and support play in the role they play in this. Because it's like, you know, Suki's brother has the whole, like, you know, they have the whole traumatic hang up that him and his brother have at the beginning, but he is and becomes an anchor for Suki, you know, later in this season and in the next season. Yeah. And we already went into it with Yachi's mom, but like, yeah, these people, it's so nice and honestly just comforting to know that like these players who work their asses off or even just people have this kind of amazing support, you know, in their home life.
Yeah.
It's cool.
All right, so moving on, and just because we're an hour and 40 into this right now, so we'll try not to hem and haw too much, except for the major players, which there are a couple. But Suga will be the next one. My gut tells me somewhere within the A-B region. A?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go with A on this one because, you know, Suga suffers from being on the bench, although that does not undermine how much of a relevant character he is within the show. As we've seen, we have plenty of characters that don't even play volleyball that are up there.
Plus, he does actually in this season. And he plays a lot on the court because he has a whole moment where Kageyama starts to get spooked in the middle of the Seijo match, and he comes in as Mr. Refresher and like sort of proves and showcases his talent.
Is that season 1 or 2?
Ooh, was it season 1?
Season 1. Yeah, I thought that was season 1.
Might be season 1.
Yeah. It's so tough because that game is mirrored, you know what I mean? So it's like trying to get those things confused. Yeah, I don't know if he has a lot of like super standout moments.
Yeah, I do remember he does like do some swapping in and out with Kageyama, but it's not to the same. It's not like the same.
We have a couple moments there, and then we have it where they do the whole switch up versus the team with the pink jerseys where Daichi gets injured.
Oh yes. Is
that the game where Daichi gets injured? I think so. And you know, he's got to come in and help support and be a pillar to the other fill-in captain and things like that. Yeah. He's just an awesome guy.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
Okay, next one is Aon. All right, I think. Just snap decision here. I think like B to D, anywhere in there, I'm willing to be persuaded on really any of them. You know, again, hang on 1 second. Battery died. Actually, if we just want to cut, I'll just be like, okay, next character.
Yeah.
Just do it like that. It'll be easier.
What you know about Willis, bitch?
What you know about Willis? What you talking about, Willis? All right. Ready?
Ready.
3, 2, 1. All right. So the next character we have is Aon from Date Tech. I'm kind of floating between B to D. I guess basically I'm willing to be persuaded on any of them. He does have a soft spot for me. I feel like he got a little bit more, in season 1 when they versed them. Yeah. He does have some moments against Seijo. But, and I like his character. He's not a bad guy. And part of his whole shtick is that he's a man of few words, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I get that. But my same gripe, from season 1 is that
he just doesn't get a lot of time.
You don't get a lot. We don't get a lot of time to know you beyond that. Like we kind of have to infer it from your body language and all those kind of things. And from what I could tell, you're a man of character. Yeah. But like I'd like to see more. But that's just the downfall of his character. Yeah. Like I feel like he makes every tier list, but he can never be. That's what top,
he's got like such a standout presence, but it does nothing with his character goes beyond presence.
Yes,
I always know he's in the room, but he's not like somebody I would gravitate to go to talk to, or I'm not picking him for, you know what I mean? Because it's like he just doesn't. Yeah, I don't know.
I could see D just to fill a slot.
Yeah, how about it?
Yeah, I'll put him D. Poor guy. All right, it's all right. We like him. He made the list. All right.
All right. Takeda is next. Real homie. I mean, again, I don't want to, get too repetitive, but like these characters who aren't the volleyball players, they do, functionally and technically different things, but they all play these roles as support pillars, basically, right? And Takeda is no exception. He is he's the teacher and he's the assistant here to the team. So he plays a little assisting role in being the sort of the bridge between the school and the functional side of that and this club and the players and stuff. But also he's like one of the guys on the team who, like, when the coach, the Ukai is good at like sort of giving everybody what they need to get on the court and like adjust their playing style for the game, but like their inspiration, I feel like, comes from Takeda. This is the guy who's like gets up and is like reading them sonnets and stuff, and he's the guy giving them like the war speech before they go into war. And just I did it again. I was about to say something from season 1. He has so many moments that stand out to me where it's like it's also kind of interesting that he's like learning the game, like he's like not learning with us necessarily, but like he's kind of like going through the motions and picking up on things as we are, right? Yeah. So he's also weirdly like kind of a focal point in a way. I don't know. I really like him, but I could see him. I was gonna say C. I don't know.
I can see B.
B or C. Okay.
I think B.
B.
Yeah.
All right. I'm happy with that.
I'm happy with it.
All right.
Tanaka, the boy. This is one of mine where this is huge bias because I love Tanaka. I've always loved him since he was literally introduced in season 1. And I have to try and take some of season 1 out of this because he plays a major role. Not that he doesn't here, but I'm hard pressed to find a lot of the moments. It's kind of like the Noya thing where it's like I love him for who he is, and we could go into why he's so important to the team, without sounding like a broken record. But even with Noya, I was like I couldn't remember too many super standout moments. Same thing with Tanaka. So that's where I am. It's like complete bias at this point, I will admit with you, but for something like S, definitely not lower than A, just because he is incredibly relevant for all of his things. But that's where I am. I'm S with him because I just love him.
Yeah, I also really fuck with him. I mean, no surprise there. Tanaka, it is interesting because compared to his place in season 1 in terms of what he does, he becomes again like a little bit more of like a Daichi Noya-esque player where it's like a lot of his stuff just becomes like, I'm going to be the dependable one. When you guys need another person to spike, when you need another person, over here in the corner, as your winger, like I'm there. I'm that guy, and I will be getting us points. Like I'm here for you guys. But doesn't really have a lot of like, Tanaka's good. Is good at X thing, he's gonna do this thing because Tanaka, like that's what Tanaka does. I think I would say A. My gut's telling me A. I could see S, like just out of I really fuck with him. I really like him, but I feel.
Can we just put him S?
Yeah, we can put him
All
S.
Right.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right. Tetsuo.
Yes.
Who is the other who
Great
is
character.
the anchor here, at least in my opinion, for Nakuma. This is the guy who one just every time I like say his name or see his face, I picture his smirk. He has such a iconic like smug face. He's like the king of snarky smugness. But he's not a dick about it. Tetsuo though is so Tetsuo. One of the first things that comes to my mind when I think about Tetsuo, and same thing with Bokuto, is regardless of the fact of their personalities when they're on the court, which is like very, like I said, very snarky and very like, oh, what, like this is all, like they're very like talky guys and showy guys, and they like to be, but they both very clearly are incredibly passionate and love this game, but they also genuinely care about other players being at their best. And that's not something that I can say for every single player on this list, let alone in the show. And I think this is best exemplified through the moment that Bokuto and Tetsuo have with Suki, who for all intents and purposes is not somebody that's all into the game when we first meet him and in season 2, at least in the beginning half. But through people like Bokuto and Tetsuo, you see that they're like, no, Suki, we genuinely think that you could be good enough at this game if you learn to love it. And we know you can learn to love it because I know you have like what it takes to find it inside. Like the way that they sort of encourage and bring this out of Suki and get him into the place he needs to be to have the revelation he has. Honestly, like they're hallmark signs of a leader, in my opinion. Like I totally see why he's the captain. Daichi has his traits for why he's the captain of Karasuno, but I see it in Tetsuo. Tetsuo is like such a stand-up guy. He's such a guy who's like not going to let anybody on his team, and for that matter, anybody that he likes, like fall. He's picking everybody up. He's making sure everybody is at 100% exactly where they need to be so that we can play this game at our best, because anything else is we're wasting time.
Yeah. I my gut goes with A. I think well said on what you said. For the reasons that you said.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what
Cool beans.
Oh. All right, Suki. Now,
Suki.
Suki's funny because I think in season 1 we had him in D because neither of us really fucked with him at all. I'm going to say I think Suki is going to exponentially jump as these lists go up, or as these seasons go up, because I think for this one, I see him in B.
I do too.
And I'm just going to spoil you guys now. Season 3, he's going higher.
Yeah.
Suki is the character who exponentially is moving. And it's funny because that's literally what he does in the show.
Yeah.
It is a slow burn, but his character development is one of, if not one of the best character arcs in the entire show. I mean, we've only finished 3 seasons, so one more to go. But man,
like the episodes, I think it was 8 and 9, Illusionary Hero, and then something about Moon and Sun, whatever. His whole thing, right? Yeah. Those were some really awesome episodes, and I know a lot of people were really happy with the discussion that we had with those, and I thought it just invoked such emotion and provided for such a great discussion because his whole mindset is not volleyball contingent, right? And you can make that argument for a lot of these people, like their character is just beyond volleyball, right? Your Okaiwa's going to be Okaiwa, Daichi's going to be Daichi, etc. But this is just like kind of a hard topic to talk about because Suki's outlook on life is something that is probably more common than you'd think, but definitely not common within the confines of the show. Sure. And it's something sad to see, at the same time. So seeing his whole backstory and the people that have to come around him, like Yama and his brother, his mother, all the the other teammates, Bokudo, etc., to kind of try and uplift him, and it's just so hard to crack him. But then when you realize that his mindset is rooted so deeply in this, almost like this existential dread, like this nihilistic version of it where it's like nothing actually matters. Yeah. It's like, he's really entrenched in that, and you didn't realize how bad it was. And it just highlighted that his character is deeper than just like, I'm going to be a crabby, guy just because, and he still can be, which is why he's not S or A right now. I don't think he fully got out of the woods yet, but I do think those episodes were so crucial to his character and very enlightening, and was awesome to see him take steps towards being like, okay, I'm going to try and look at this in a different light. And if anything, just do this for my pride and for the love of the game. And whatever happens, but like, why not enjoy it while we're here and give it our best shot? At least, maybe he's not that far yet. Maybe I'm putting words in his mouth, but like, we're not totally in the abyss
Yeah.
right now. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
we're
yeah.
like, we've kind of climbed
Yeah.
that, at least in season 2 at this point. And I really loved it for Suki's character. He's still not one of my favorites, at least in this season. You know, and spoiler alert, still not in terms of Karasuno, just because of his personality, but that's a subjective, neither here nor there thing. I do think B is a fair spot for him, being that D was our first one. And like Isaiah said, he's definitely going to go higher in season 3 because, you know, I don't want to get too much into it, but like he's really relevant. So yeah, but anyway.
Okay, cool. So next up is Yuji from the Johenji, otherwise known as the frat team.
The frat king.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. I'm cool with putting him in D because I could see an argument for C, and I'd have to be convinced if you want to go higher, but I don't know. He was cool. You know, kind of the same argument I have for any of these C characters. He's really cool, and I like the moment he has where he kind of like at the end where he learns, you know, from the Karasuno team how to be a little bit more, you know, to put a little bit more effort into the game. But I don't know, kind of just like hit me once and then left as far as his character impact and stuff. So
I was thinking C or D. The reason maybe D is because he just ironically disrespects all the characters I like without the course of it. Like, first of all, he's like hella rude to Kyoko.
Yeah,
just like thinking
it's
true. That he's just gonna get in her pants because he exists. You know what I mean? It's like,
very
all right,
true.
relax. First of all, piss off. That's not cool. And then he he does it again, I'm pretty sure, in front of the team.
Yep.
You know, and Tanaka's there and he's like, you know, disrespecting that. And then the cherry on top, he's disrespecting Daichi and Daichi's whole thing. And like, you know, they got to show him what the hell's good, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just that I don't fully jive with that personality. You could be like, Ian, why is there a stick up your ass? Why, you know what I mean? Like, why you got to be like that? He's this like carefree spirit. And I get that, but there is an extent where it's like, I don't know, bro. I just feel like I went to high school with too many people like that, and like just it rubbed me the wrong way. And it's like knowing them now, I'm 26, and you meet people like that, and it's like maybe I'm being hard on him because he is in high school, so I get it. He can change, but like when you meet people like that now, especially, it's like, dude, grow the fuck up. You know what I mean? It's like I get you could be carefree and have fun, but like, you know, there's just certain things where it's like, it just becomes annoying at that point. Yeah. And I guess I just didn't jive with his, you know, his personality in the sense that he wasn't very respectful towards the people. His attitude was carefree and it was nice and it was refreshing in that sense. And he was funny and all that kind of stuff. But when it really came down to brass tacks, he wasn't very respectful to some of the players that really were deserving of respect just in general. And like, that didn't jive with me the right way. So I could see D.
Okay. Sorry, bro. Grow up. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? Grow up. All right. Next is Yaichi, who I absolutely loved. And I definitely think I loved more at the end of season 2 than at the beginning, but I never disliked her. Yaichi is, I really love Yaichi because this kind of character is such a interesting character to put in a story surrounded by characters who are all, to an extent, very outgoing, very confident, and very passionate about what they do. Because she's, especially when we meet her, the tailor end opposite. She is, I think, about as riddled with anxiety as a human being physically can be. And she's incredibly, you know, nervous and anxious and kind of wishy-washy when it comes to like what she wants to do, what she thinks she's capable of, where her place is, right? I mean, you know, again, we talk about it. These kids are, you know, or at least all the high school kids are in high school, and a lot of that time in your life is about finding your place, right? Just trying to fit in, trying to find what the reason is that you're here, what it is you want to do in your life and on this planet. But Yaichi seems like she's like caught in the center fold of that, and unfortunately is riddled with so much anxiety that any direction she goes, she kind of gets scared out of doing that before she gives herself an honest chance to try. And that's why I think it's so nice and important that she has people like her mom who, while are tough on her, aren't ever going to let her fall or just drop off without giving it an honest try. And then through meeting people like Hinata, where she ultimately learns that the thing you want to do, whatever it is you want to do, your passion is going to have to be such a strong driving force in doing it, because that thing is not just going to come to you. It's not just going to fall in your lap, and it's not going to come to you because you want it, because like nothing is that easy, especially if it's something you really want. You're going to have to practice at it. You're going to have to try at it, but you're going to have to participate first and foremost. And that doesn't mean just sitting on, you know, in the back of the bench physically in the room. That means like being involved, getting involved in this thing, actively trying, making an effort to improve it. And that's why I like the fact that she becomes this secondary manager, but like we see the impact she has on the team outside of being, another person to go grab all the balls off the court and pick them up. We see, her efforts in trying to get a fundraiser together for the team. We see her efforts in the fact that she's a little bit of an artist and she's like making posters for the team and stuff. And then by the end of it, she's out there in the crowds right next to people like Tanaka's sister cheering this team on and like writing down, like, sort of following in Kyoko's literal footsteps in terms of like what she's going to have to do to take on the role of manager officially when Kyoko inevitably leaves. And I love seeing that change in her. I love seeing that positive growth and encouragement. Again, not, from Hinata, almost seeming specifically, and like I'm sure her mom, but even from the rest of the team, right? Like nobody on the team is like, they're all incredibly welcoming to her and want her to succeed. And Kyoko ends up, I like Yachi's involvement in the story because she amplifies Kyoko in a way that we now get to see Kyoko literally take on this like mentor role and sort of showcase what it is she does, how important this role is, and why it matters that she's here because she wants to be and not because she needs, another box checked off the list.
Yeah, couldn't have put it better myself. My gut's telling me A for her.
I agree.
Yeah.
Get up there,
yeah,
girl.
She's great. Love her.
Love her. Yama. I love Yama.
Yama's cool.
Yama is absolutely great. I think, again, Yama's kind of like a Suki character where not for the same reasons, but I think he also, for me, is going to jump exponentially on the list because season 1, he's kind of in, I forget where we put him on season 1.
C.
Put him in C.
Yeah.
I think, at least for me, he's going to be steadily going up because I think he does in the course of these 2 seasons. And it's sort of the opposite for Suki, where it's like Suki has actually a lot of skill and talent when it comes to the game. He just doesn't have the care or, gall, quite frankly, to care or try and input that. Yama is sort of this weird mix between like Suki and a Yaichi, where Yama loves the game, but he's just kind of so riddled with like fears and so stuck in his own head that he's afraid to put any effort in just for the sake of failing because of how much that was going to hurt. So seeing him overcome that and seeing him slowly work through that, especially because of his role, we've talked about this before, it kind of sucks because he doesn't traditionally get a lot of practice like a Hinata does, where it's like he's always on the court anyway, just fucking slinging balls, and it's like if he misses or whatever, he's the pinch server. So the literal only time he gets to go in the game is when the team is already backed into such a corner that it's like all the focus and attention is that much more put on him. And it's like, I get it. I understand where his anxieties and fears come from, but seeing him, the journey he goes through to get over that and climb over this is, again, this is season 2. I feel like later seasons, he really that's where it sort of gets capitalized on. But you see it here. You see it start to flourish in season 2 and in this, specifically referencing the match with Seijo. I really like Yama. I think A or B.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat here for a lot of the reasons that you are. And I do feel like there are many moments throughout this season, actually, where he gets highlighted and we have a lot of introspection and he overcomes fears or at least learns how to cope with them. And I feel that it speaks to a lot of the, just human lessons that we can learn. And he also does a lot for Suki and his development as well, and other characters. So it's not even just an individual thing where it's like this character grew, but he also outwardly helps. Like, I feel like that's the strength with someone like Hinata, where it's like Hinata not only grows individually, but like he kind of is infectious with every character's growth, can almost be attributed, not all, but a lot of characters can attribute to him, etc. For that reason, yeah, I'm between those 2. Let's see who we got. I could see A.
Yeah?
Yeah, I could see A.
Okay. Get up there, boy. Get up there in that A column right there. All right, I'm not gonna hold you, dude. These last 2, I would chuck them into D.
Yeah, I agree with you. Just to give a few words briefly, I did. What was the first guy? Because him specifically, his name.
Oh, his name?
Because the reason he's included on the list, some people would be like, if you can't even remember his name, why is he on the list? Like, to be fair, he does have some defining
the
moments.
episodes that he has.
Yoshiki?
Yeah, Yoshiki.
I do like his turnaround, right?
Yeah.
This is someone who, we've seen it before, but this is really highlighted where it's like, why am I even going to try if we're just going to lose to X team in the end? Yeah. Why am I going to give it my
Suki's
all?
Thing, but on like a much lower grade.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be this super deep philosophical reason. It just kind of seems to be like, I'm just like, why would I, I mean? Like, I'm just like, whatever. But it is cool to see his like mini turnaround in that moment, and obviously because Chicken Little is there to cheer him on. But I just do love the moment where he runs, because it's this moment again where he saw the ball go and he just let it go the first time, and you're like, dude. And then it happens again, and the camera goes off, and you're like, did he do it again? And then the next shot is him just
booking it,
going after it, and he saves it and dives to the table. And like, that was a really inspiring moment for me.
Yeah.
I was like, man, like if that doesn't kind of get at you in some way or another, I don't know what will.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that we give him his credit for that, because it is very relevant. But
it's always cool seeing like these characters like in a way like learn to care about the sport, and like, you know, Haikyu, especially in this season because we play so many teams, kind of does that thing repeatedly where it's like, okay, we're going to play this team, and the whole point of this character existing is to like basically get them invested in some way, shape or form into the game, you know, based off of whatever flaw they have. And that's that to me, that's sort of where his character plays a role. But I think he does it well. And you know, his flaw or hang up with the game is not a uncommon one, and I like how it turns around.
Yeah, agreed. So anyway, D, again, he made the list, and we do like him. Doesn't mean we dislike him. It's just, you know, that alone isn't going to propel him to super high heights. But
I'm going to be honest, even less with this dude, because I feel like his whole thing literally is that he's like, I'm really big, but I ain't never played volleyball before. And it's like, okay, dude, so go train for a month or whatever, and then come back. I don't know what to tell you. Like,
I think I did the math, and if I'm not mistaken, this guy was like 6'7" or something like that. And he was like some ridiculous height.
Like
incredibly.
I think they say he's one of the tallest players in their whole like.
I think he is the tallest. Yeah.
But it's like that's literally it. Apparently, in terms of skill, he like just started yesterday.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
You know, and the other thing is like the whole team is like, oh, he's so tall, we don't have to do anything. It's like, guys, this feels like a recipe for disaster here. You can't. This is like the fucking, you know, the Marine guys' team. This is like his team, but on an 11. Like,
sprains his ankle. All right, we quit.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's just there again because he does have that episode. I
Yeah.
mean, to be fair, whatever. Maybe it's just a filler spot. Who knows? Whatever. Get over it. All right. Anyway, that is our tier list. Took us a ripe 2 hours. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I know I had some fun with these conversations. We can't help ourselves to go pretty deep on this stuff, and it's not like we're so profound that we just can't help ourselves. But on a real note, we do enjoy the show and the characters within it, and we know you guys do too, so we wanted to make sure that we give each of them their justice where justice is due and kind of flesh out our reasonings behind why we like, dislike, you know, all that kind of stuff as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you are liking this video, especially if you made it this far. That would really go a long way.
Absolutely.
Sharing with your friends as well. I don't plug this enough, but share the videos that you guys like. That really goes a long way, even more so than liking and all that jazz, because then it just spreads the word to more people, which is always something that's great. Comment your thoughts down below. What did you think of our tier list? Can't wait for all these Okaiwa comments. Although you probably, all the Okaiwa comments that are pissed off ones probably didn't make it to this point in the video anyway, so they're not going to hear me say it because they probably would have logged off right after that. It is what it is, though. I'm curious to hear all the other positive comments as well, where you thought, you know, these characters rank up, etc. All that kind of stuff. And also make sure you guys are liking and subscribing as well. Anyway, folks, until next time, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And we will catch you all on the flip. Peace.
Peace.
Ninjas are samurais, blaze of the kunais. Find me in the leaf of the cloud, screaming out Bankai. We just some ghouls though, who like seeing parts fly. They like what you saying, Goma got more through the storylines. I tested your neck from the start, my hunters gon' come for your heart. I promise you'll land in my boulevard, left them in one piece, no curse.